Let's dial in Laura Ingraham. You know her. She runs LifeZette.
No hugs for you today because you are a woman.
Well, she's via satellite today. Hey, Laura, you've got a newspaper there. I'm just curious. What page is the Susan Wright was the unmasker story on?
Well, this is the Washington Compost, and we got the Trump donor met Putin ally. You guys can zero in on this. Democrats are ready to filibuster Gorsuch. Sessions orders review of police reform pact.
Where's the Susan Wright story?
You know, I've been flipping. There's a story about a dog that was rescued from a. No, I'm just.
Check the one.
I mean, every manner of story, but I can't find any story about Susan Rice.
Brian
I must be here somewhere.
on A16. Was that in the Times?
Oh, yeah, the Times. It tells you the headline. The headline's even just said, Steve, could you hold grab the New York Times there?
Right. I can't find it in the Washington Post at all. Susan, I mean, because I'm sure if I'm sure if someone like Condi Rice or any of the national security team of George W. Bush had spied on Barack Obama,
it would be front page.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be a story or anything for the Washington Post. I mean, it's so shameless.
In the New York Times, the headline on page A16, Trump tries to deflect Russia scrutiny, citing a crooked scheme by Obama.
Guys, this is such a low point for the American media. I mean, they have been pounding the Russia story for weeks, even though top officials have said they have no evidence that any Russia involvement in our election or attempt to meddle in the election had any effect. Okay, they stay on that story. Fine, we should find out what Russia wanted to do to the election. Fine. But now we have a close confidant of both Hillary Clinton, who was running against Donald Trump, and Barack Obama, the same woman who went out on 4 Sunday shows and lied about the attack on Benghazi. She was that trusted and that relied upon that they sent her out to sell that lie endlessly on television. This very same person just decides one day, I want to unmask all these identities of people from these particular phone numbers in raw intel reports. Now, did she do all of that on her own? What did Barack Obama know, and when did he know it? And who in the Obama administration directed Susan Rice to do this? Or was she just acting alone? There's an aggressive lack of curiosity on the part of the lamestream media on all of this.
She has said through intermediaries that she did nothing wrong. And if you watch the mainstream media, that's what they say. They say she did nothing wrong, and in her capacity, she could do that. But if none of the conversations were about Russia, why would she need to unmask this information about the Trump team? It looks political.
Well, it very well might have been legal. That's a separate problem that we have with our surveillance culture in Washington. Should this be legal? I think we'll have to find out more about what she actually did.
Between Americans? No.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if the sole purpose of unmasking was to just kind of find out what they were talking about and kind of find out how they were going to change Obama's policies or how they were going to proceed on various domestic policy fronts or foreign policy fronts, if it had very little to do with national security, then we are on the verge in this country of living with police state tactics. This is what police states do to their political opponents. They surveil and they report back to headquarters. I lived in the former Soviet Union for a semester in college. This is the kind of stuff I witnessed as a 20-year-old in Leningrad, okay? And no, I'm not part of the Russian conspiracy because I speak Russian and have 2 Russian sons, okay? But this is the kind of stuff I witnessed there. Now, we'll learn more. We'll see why she did all this, I hope. But for the mainstream media to push this Eric Prince Blackwater story above the fold and leave this to, some jump page somewhere else in the publication is beyond shameless. We know exactly what side they're on here.
Laura, just 2 weeks ago, though, she was on PBS saying she didn't know anything about this. Listen.
I know nothing about this. I was surprised to see reports from Chairman Nunes on that count today. I really don't know to what Chairman Nunes was referring, but he said that whatever he was referring to was a legal, lawful surveillance, and that it was potentially incidental collection.
What this does is shed a lot of light on what Devin Nunes was seeing when he went over a couple of weeks ago in a mystifying move that we still don't have all the answers to, but maybe he's seeing some of this. And my question is, where's this going? I have a sense we're not done with this. She had dozens of requests to unmask the American citizen at the other end of the alleged international call. Why is that? Are the reasons sound? And could you perhaps be interested to that level of our own? Is it of your national security? You thought our national security was actually at risk to do that? Let's say that's true. But how do you possibly rationalize if it turns out 2 Americans are talking and those names are exposed? Adam Schiff didn't come out and said, I saw that information and I think it's no big deal. He declined to discuss the contents of the reports, but he said it was highly unusual for Devin Nunes to see it without him there first, which means he probably might have been very blown away by what he saw.
Right. That's a great insight, Brian. And I think that John McCain this morning said it was a dereliction of duty on the part of Susan Rice. I mean, pretty much McCain criticizes the Trump team for everything. So the fact that even he came out today and hit her on this. But I still go back to, was Susan Rice acting alone here in her request for this information? Again, it might have been legal. But was there a concerted effort to discover as much information as possible on the incoming administration for future use in politics, in other investigations that might not even have been going on? What were they looking for? And who else did she discuss this unmasking with? And her little comment, by the way, where she said, oh, well, this could have been about incidental collection. You know, you've had these same former intel people on your show, guys. I mean, that's irrelevant. Right. Whether it was incidental or not, if she had a political motive for doing what she did, that is reprehensible. It could be unlawful. And more investigation needs to go on about this. But, I mean, what's closer to the truth? That Obama ordered a wiretap of Trump Tower? What's closer to that, or Susan Rice saying, I know nothing about this?
Well, what if
what's closer to the truth?
What if the roles were reversed? What if it were the Trump team surveilling Hillary Clinton's team? That would be all over the front page.
Or George W. Bush's team surveilling Barack Obama. That would be probably the analogy I would stick with. I mean, they'd be screaming bloody murder.
Remember the good old days when they just stole a letter from a typewriter, like W? Remember they just took the W? Those were the scandals back in the 90s during the transition.
They would, and they would, if George W. Bush's national security advisor had been doing this, they would also pull in the race card. They would be saying they're doing this because they're racist. I mean, honestly, this story it must be focused in the right way. The Russia investigation will go forward fine. I don't think there's anything there, and we're going to find that. But this story about Susan Rice, given her past, is explosive. And I hope journalists at the Washington Post start doing their job.
And when you click around and you see nobody's talking about it on the other channels, it tells you a lot about those channels. Real quickly, because you worked at the Supreme Court back in the day after you lived in Russia, it looks like Neil Gorsuch is going to get the job for life on Friday. But the Republicans at this point are poised to invoke the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster. It looks on its face like Democrats are doing about the dumbest thing they possibly could.
Yeah, exactly right. They're shooting themselves in their own foot. I don't like calling it the nuclear option. This is actually what has constitutionally always been the case. There's never been a filibuster, partisan filibuster, of a Supreme Court nominee. Never. We all know that. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats took the first step down the road of ending that long Senate tradition by what they did on the lower courts, the federal appellate courts. And now, you know, now they're eating crow on this. But it's not McConnell's not doing anything out of the ordinary. He really isn't. He's merely keeping in place the long-standing tradition that filibusters of a partisan nature do not prevent an up or down vote on a Supreme Court nomination. And that's what's going to happen. Justice Thomas, for whom I clerked, was not filibustered, even though there was a lot of controversy surrounding his nomination, never filibustered. So why should someone be filibustered now?
Well, because it's the time we're in. And finally, is health care back? Do you get the sense that they're getting off on the right foot this time?
I do.
It looks like they're going to make an announcement today. What do you hear?
I've been hearing this for days, and my sources on Capitol Hill, with whom I've been speaking, have said this. There is a concerted effort to get this done and do it the right way. I think not everybody's going to get everything they want, but this is critical for moving forward on tax reform. Donald Trump needs this win on the board, and so do the Republicans. They've got to work together on this, bring down the cost of health care, and get back toward the road of real competition in health care.
So Freedom Caucus will be on board. What are they saying?
I think a number of the Freedom Caucus members will be on board. Maybe not everybody, but that's okay. That's the process.
Rand Paul met with them over the weekend, and he was the liaison, they say.
That's
and
right.
last night, the vice president was to have a late-night meeting on Capitol Hill.
So if
Great,
Trump
they should be working. Don't you think they all should be working overtime? Don't take the 2-week Easter break. I think everybody should be staying in town, getting this job done. And until they get it done, they shouldn't be going for any Easter recess.
Well, if Trump gets health care this week and Gorsuch, it will be his best week.
It's a great week for him if that happens, absolutely.
Yeah, and the headline will be something else. Laura Ingraham, always great to see you. We
Great
wore
to
you
see you
out.
guys.
16.
Yeah.